This morning we are going to continue a series of presentations to educate and enlighten Pilgrim Baptist Church on African American history. Now remember, Black history actually was started back in 1926 by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And February was selected, as you remember, because it coincided with Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass's birthdays. So continuing on our theme this year of unsung heroes, we want to highlight others and contributed to the legacy and richness of African American history, because there were others. Even Dr. Martin Luther King said that there were others. There were people in the trenches that made the civil rights movement. So even though he was highlighted, there were others who helped to achieve what we have achieved. So today, let's briefly talk about Black soldiers in World War II. African Americans served bravely with distinction in every theater of World War II, but not without a simultaneous struggle for their own civil rights in the United States military. The American military was not integrated until 1948, 3 years after the World War II actually ended. However, the accomplishments of Blacks in World War II laid the foundation for integration in post-war. In 1941, at the start of the war, there were less than, now get this, there were less than 4,000 African Americans in the military. But they were in occupations as porters, cooks, mechanics, janitors, supply, and transportation. Only 12 of that 4,000 were officers. 12, just 12 were officers. The military in 1941 was a lucrative, steady job with benefits, even if it were menial jobs, that it sort of mirrored society. They were menial jobs, but the military was lucrative because they paid a paycheck, a consistent paycheck. So by 1945, now this was really good. By 1945, from 4,000, by 1945, there was an astounding 1.2 million African Americans that had joined the military. Wow. Now let's put that in perspective. Think about this. There were over 900,000 blacks in New York City's borough of Brooklyn. That's only 100,000 from 1 million. So if you took all the blacks in Brooklyn, put them in the army, then that's how many, plus 100,000, that's how many African Americans we would have in the military by 1945. Amazing. Even though the number of blacks in the military grew exponentially, it was not easy getting in. Initially, blacks were passed over by draft boards, and the numbers did not grow until the War Office in Washington, D.C. realized how many men were being killed in combat. This realization paved the way for the use of African Americans to replenish these numbers. That actually kind of took off in the Vietnam War, when the highest number of people that would be killed were black soldiers. President Roosevelt promised that blacks would be allowed to enlist according to the percentage in the population, which was at that time, in the 1940s, 10.6%. This was never achieved, though, but it brought to bear African Americans being a fighting force in the military. Even though blacks were in menial jobs behind the front lines, their work was equally vital to the war effort. Many accolades were given to famous units, such as the Tuskegee Airmen, who flew escort to American bombers on over 200 missions without losing a bomber, or to the Red Ball Express unit that delivered 1.5 million tons of supplies to the 1st and 3rd Armies advancing through Europe to D-Day. On D-Day, the 1st Army on Omaha Beach included 1,700 African Americans. Let's look at some of the noteworthies of World War II in terms of African American soldiers. There were 65 segregated units in World War II. 65. 708 African Americans were killed in combat. In the middle of the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944, General Dwight Eisenhower did not have enough placement troops because they were getting killed so fast. So he then ordered that African American support troops pick up their weapons and join the fight. This paved the way for blacks to actually use weapons and join infantry units to fight in combat. As a result, more than 2,000 black soldiers immediately volunteered to be transferred to fight on the front lines. The Pittsburgh Courier in the 1940s was a famous African-American newspaper, and they published a letter from this private who was thinking about joining World War II. Here's some of the questions that he wrote in this letter. Being an African-American of dark complexion and some 26 years old, these questions flashed through my mind. Should I sacrifice my life to live as a half-American? Will things be better for the next generation and the peace to follow? Would it be demanding too much to demand full citizenship rights in exchange for the sacrificing of my life? Is it the kind of America I know worth? Is this kind of America that I know, is it worth defending? Will America be a true and pure democracy after this war? Will colored Americans suffer still the indignities that have been heaped upon them in the past? Because of this, he actually led a campaign to have what they call a double V campaign. Victory in Europe and victory in America on the home front. He actually championed the cause to do this, and it was actually received. And the Big V for Victory campaign, actually in 1945, on May 6th, when it actually was declared through a proclamation by the president, he actually thought of at that time that this double V victory actually was for a victory for African Americans in America and a V for victory for the Allied forces in Europe. So now, here's what I'm going to do. We have a lesson from this today. So are you ready for this lesson? Yes. Tell me, are you ready for this lesson?
Yes.
Pilgrim Baptist Church, folks, has its own homegrown piece of African-American history sitting right here among us. I present to some and introduce to others a black Civil War, a black World War II veteran, Brother Malcolm Murray. Brother, can you come forward? Brother Malcolm Murray is one of the original World War II veterans. Think about this, 75 years ago, Brother Malcolm Murray was in the military. We want to present Brother Malcolm Murray with a plaque to just honor him in commemoration and bring a piece of African American history right here to Pilgrim Baptist